What is up, and welcome back to 24 Minutes of A24, the podcast that takes a look at the A24 library 24 minutes at a time. I am Ethan Simi.
And I'm Ben Lawhorn. This week on the pod, we are attempting to find the 13 best movies of our good old friend Stevie here. That's right. It's our first ever 4-person, 13 movie collaborative draft. And we're talking about Mr. Spielberg himself.
What could go wrong?
Nothing.
God, it's going to be a perfect pod. I cannot wait. It's going to be fantastic. So you're right, Ben. This is our first 4-person, 13 movie draft. Of course, we are an A24 pod. But the last episode of every single month, at least the last few months, we've been kind of dipping our toes into this kind of collaborative draft that we have enjoyed doing here. We did Christopher Nolan first, Justice for Tenet, and Oppenheimer. I can't believe I have to say that on this pod. That's unbelievable. And then we did musicals, and then we did Scorsese last month, and we are on to good old Stevie this month. Now, every single one of those drafts has just been you and I and one guest. We have 2 guests with us this time. We have 2 incredible people joining us, so we upped the ante to 13 movies instead of 11, which will be really fun. So first off, we have Bethanne of the Cinematic Symphony pod, good friend of the pod, good friend of ours, here to inspire a little chaos. Bethanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It has, like I was telling Ethan, been a hot minute since I've been on any show, really. So I'm glad to hang out with Ben and Ethan and get my shit talking is a little rusty. So, we'll see if the jokes hit or not.
We'll get you oiled up. You'll be good. Yeah.
Gotta use it or lose it for sure. And then our 4th guest, kind of what we like to do on this show. First time guests, we like to really have them on for the drafts and throw them into the fire and just really determine our friendship status based on Twitter. And that's pretty much it. That's all we're going off of here. Brian Sudfield of the Film Fragments podcast. Brian, welcome to the pod. Very first time. Pleasure to have you. How are you?
Good, guys. I'm so excited to be here talking about Grandpa Stevie. Listen, the amount of stress that I've had in the last week leading up to this, it's through the roof. And honestly, I almost passed out right before I got on this call because I'm like, I simply can't do this. I was going to be like, Ethan, I may have to decline. I can't do it anymore.
It's totally understandable.
I would have totally understood that. Yeah, 100%. Wow, 76 years old. Yeah, Stevie, 76. How old is Scorsese? I wonder
81?
what the old... 81?
Yeah, they're close.
80, 81.
I guess we're going to check. I wonder... no, not Martin Short. Martin Scorsese, 80. He's 80 years old.
All right.
Very impressive. We're getting in with the oldies this time around. Okay, so it is Steven Spielberg, like you mentioned. We've got 13 movies. I want to start this off by kind of assessing everybody's relationship to Steven Spielberg. Did you watch his movies as a kid? Like, what kind of informed your movie taste for Spielberg? And anything like that. Bethanne, I want to start with you. What's your relationship to Spielberg? One of the faves or not, or how's it going?
Yeah, I think Spielberg is just one of those icons that's just like, he's the GOAT. Like, you just kind of, he's like Scorsese. You just don't really argue with him. You just kind of got to trust him at that point. And I think my relationship with him has been, as a kid, you watch the Jurassic Parks and things like that. And then you become an adult and it's like, I guess we have to graduate and watch Schindler's List.
Yeah.
So, he's such a diverse writer where he can do pretty much anything. He can direct anything. And it's just, he's just one of those guys like, oh, when I think filmmaker, first one comes to mind, Spielberg. It's hard to get to that status.
Yeah. What about you, Brian? What's your relationship with Steven?
Yeah, I mean, similar to what Bethanne was saying, he is one of the GOATs. He is one of the iconic filmmakers that we have. Anytime people talk about their favorites, of course, Spielberg's going to come up in the list because he is one of the most influential filmmakers that we have. And yeah, as a kid, you watch the Jurassic Park, the Jaws, the E.T., Close Encounters maybe, but then you get older, then you realize, oh, he's not just the guy that does these fantastical adventure, fun type of movies. He does these downer, serious, courtroom, period piece, drama, comedies, whatever. And I really love that he's a guy that has tackled pretty much every genre. I respect filmmakers that step out of their comfort zone every so often and do something that isn't usually something we would see from them. And yeah, I mean, what could you say about Spielberg that hasn't been said already? He is one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, and there's a reason why we all still celebrate him to this day.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I feel like E.T. was one of the first movie memories I have, as a kid watching that. And so obviously didn't know who Spielberg was at that point, but you get a sense of who this person is. And like we've all said, you just like, there's the movies you watch while you grow up. And then that's the great thing about him is just how diverse his, filmography is. Ethan, Bethanne, you guys know you came on my other pod, 3 Films in a Podcast, and we would always ask first timers, desert island actor or director. Like if you could take their filmography with you, who would you take? And my answer was always Spielberg, because, if you want something lighthearted, you've got that. You can watch, Catch Me If You Can, whatever. If you want something more serious, like there's plenty of options there. And I think that's the great thing about Spielberg. So I'm excited to draft his movies.
I think it's interesting. All of you pretty much mention his the diversification of his oeuvre, essentially, of like what he is really capable of doing. And I agree with you. Obviously I grew up, watching E.T., like formative for every single kid of the 90s, right? Like that was the movie. You watch Jurassic Park, you get a little bit older. I think for me, in practicing for this exercise, for this game, of course, I try to tackle a lot of new Spielberg movies that I maybe have, just haven't gotten to in the past. I am still kind of grappling with like, who is Steven Spielberg to me? Like, is he the guy that makes Indiana Jones, or is he the guy that like busts out Schindler's List and The Post and Lincoln? Like, I don't know. And juxtaposing like Scorsese that we did last month, right? Of like, you pretty much know you're getting a crime thriller that's religious bent, that's dealing with mortality. And I think I gravitate towards that like singular storytelling in different settings more than I gravitate towards like, oh wow, this movie is Spielberg, that's really cool. So it is really cool, but I'm also like trying to personally identify with like what about Spielberg is so interesting to me. I do think he is probably the most interesting filmmaker when it comes to that, of like literally saying like, hey, did you know Spielberg made that? And I think most of the time I don't key in on that. I'm not like, oh, like, first 10 minutes, this is a Spielberg movie, I can really tell. I think he's kind of got that like shifty nature about what he's able to do. Ben, I see you're wearing a Jaws tee. Yeah. How are we feeling about Jaws?
I mean, here's what I'll say. I'm also wearing my Jurassic Park sweatpants. I'm not going to stand up and show you, but I am also wearing those. I'm ready to go.
I thought you were no pants on the pod.
No, it's a different pod. But this one, I don't know. I love Jaws. Like, it was interesting watching all those Scorsese movies, because there was a handful that finished. And I was like, oh, that's a perfect movie. Like, that's great. Like there's probably 3 or 4. I'm like, there's no notes. And I did it so much with Spielberg too, though. Like, it's like, man, it still fucking hits, no matter how old this is. I know, whatever complaints people have about the shark now, whatever. I'm like, it's a perfect movie, not to give away my strategy, but I love this movie. I think it's fantastic. And he has a lot of them that I'm looking forward to discussing. If we want to talk about strategy, the last time with Scorsese, I kind of said, what I've done is I've broken these out into 3 tiers. I have a tier A, B, and C. C's I'm not worried about at all. Like, if you guys put them on, whatever, maybe a veto will come out. We'll see. B's, I'll be like, if they make it, that's cool. But A's for me have to be there. We're drafting 13 movies. I have 9 in my tier A that like have to be there. So I'm just like, these all have to go. So I'm very curious. And I guess I'll let our guests and anyone that's listening in on this fun fact as well. I've only seen one Indiana Jones movie, and it's Crystal Skull. So none of those are in my tier A. So I'm very curious to see where that slides in.
You didn't watch any to prep for this draft?
I didn't watch any. I wasn't going to change just for this pod. No, I have not watched any Indiana Jones movie.
Who are you?
The clip that I'm pulling for this is unhinged.
To think that like Shia LaBeouf exists only to Indiana Jones for you blows my mind.
He's in my favorite Indiana Jones movie. I don't know what to tell you.
I literally put this on the schedule so I could entice you to watch Indiana Jones. I was trying to help you as a friend.
There was just so much other stuff to watch, and I figured I'm going to have enough that I want to get in there. I'll let these guys worry about the indie movies. Safe to say I probably won't veto any of them, and don't worry, Crystal Skull isn't going to come out of my mouth anymore, but just knowing
you say that now. You say that now.
Right? But again, it's just like I have 9 A tiers and we have 13 movies, and I know at least a couple of those Indiana Jones movies are revered. So I'm very curious to see how this is going to play out.
So, Bethanne, do you have a strategy that you're going into? So you've been a part of a lot of drafts with Ben and I over on his podcast, 3 Films in a Pod, and things get pretty wild, pretty testy over there. And I know that you've done this before, but do you have like, you know, a personal favorite that you're maybe looking out for? Are you willing to reveal anything to maybe kind of up the ante early here?
So, I mean, my strategy is it's not a must. It's what are the 3? What are the 3 hills I will die on?
Okay.
Is
Fair.
my strategy.
Okay.
And I'm not going to reveal any more than that. But yes, you know, I also will be using whatever veto power I get. That is just,
Yeah.
you got to do it. So, but yeah, that's where I'm focusing on.
Okay. Brian, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of similar to Ben, to where I have 3 tiers, like which ones I would ride and die with till the end of time, and then which ones I'm like, whatever, they'll go and everything. But then there are ones where I'm just like, well, if they don't make the list, I don't really care.
We're
But
done.
I I have to be very careful with this, because without giving anything away, one of the many reasons why this was a very stressful list to put together is because without saying what the film is, Spielberg, even though he's not my favorite filmmaker ever, he directed one of probably my favorite film ever made. So I have to be very careful of where this goes. So I will be so angry if this film isn't where it's supposed to be. And I'm not going to say where it should be, but I mean, it's kind of obvious where it should be.
Okay.
But yeah, it's pretty much similar to what Ben and Bethanne were saying. Yeah, nothing else new to add.
That's fair. I think that's fascinating. I go about this a little bit differently than you guys. I don't do tiers. I think that is chump change, to be honest. I think that's weak. I think it's ineffectual.
Listen in, everybody. The experts talking.
Everybody quiet down. I'm going to tell you how this is done. Okay, so what I do, coming from somebody who essentially got swindled out of having any personal picks on the musicals list, really had to go collaborative on the Scorsese draft and completely sidestepped Raging Bull. So a guy with a pretty spotty past. Let's just put that out there. Take what I say with a grain of salt. I have a perfect draft table that I have made in Excel, where I say, look, taking into account my personal favorites, maybe other people's tastes, little Jaws, little indie, these types of things, this is what, in my opinion, would be a perfect draft. Now, obviously, if the 13th pick isn't what it is on here, I crumble. I'm a human Chernobyl, and I don't know what to do after that. So it's a lot of pressure.
That's the goal for us. That's for sure.
If we can just get me out early, that'd be great. So
we got to start him at DEFCON 3. Then.
Yeah. So I do have like a perfect draft. I have like what I would prefer. Of course, this isn't gonna. Maybe it is. Maybe it's not. I don't think it'll go, but we'll see. Okay, let's talk about rules. Let's talk about abilities. If this is someone's first time listening, or if maybe they forgot how this thing shakes out, very particular rules. We want to obviously thank Screen Drafts, a wonderful podcast out there that we kind of borrowed these rules from and use them in this collaborative format. They designed this. They came up with this, and we liked it so very much. We were like, we want to do that on this show. So go listen to them. Go subscribe to their Patreon. They're way better at this stuff than we are. We're just out here trying our best. Ben, do you want to go over the rules?
I will. Also, if you like this pod, again, go to Screen Drafts. Last summer, they did a whole month on Spielberg. They did 5 different episodes about Spielberg, the movies that he directed, he produced, all kinds of stuff. So if you enjoy this, go check them out. It's awesome. All right. So we got 4 drafters here. What we're going to do is I have a wheel of death that's going to spin, and we'll figure out what order we get to pick what we want in thanks to that wheel. So what we have is drafter A is going to get picks 1, 5, and 9. They're also going to get 2 vetoes. So if they don't like a movie that someone played, they can veto that, whether it's to move it higher or to try to get it off the list. You can use it for whatever you want. The movie isn't out of the draft. Like, it's not gone forever. It's just, it can't be used on that pick anymore. Drafter B gets spots 2, 6, and 10, and they get 1 veto. Drafter C gets 3, 7, and 11 with a veto and the only veto override of the game. but the rule is they can't use it on their own pick. So if Ethan happens to make a pick that we don't agree with, Bethanne vetoes it, and Ethan has the override, he can't use it to save himself. He can only use it to help somebody else. And then drafter D, we get 4, 8, 12, and 13 with one veto. So they get the most picks, but it's weighted towards the bottom. You don't even get a say in the top 3. So those are the 4 positions.
I will say, since this is now our 4th time that we've been doing this, I personally feel a little bit more rambunctious to use my vetoes because in the past, whoever gets this 13 and 12 spot has historically had a very light immunity, if you will, because it's early in the draft, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to, but people might be a little apprehensive to throw out a veto or a veto override or use the ability that they have. So as I've been doing my personal thinking, that seems like a pretty powerful spot to start this, especially with a Spielberg draft, to like maybe get something on there that either you're afraid is not going to make the list or, taunt a little bit, get people to come out of their shells and see what people really value. I've never gone for that spot before. Ben, you've had it before, and it's just chaos when you come to town.
Which is my favorite part. And now I'm wondering, like, are you reverse psychologying these guys? Just like, oh, you should take it so Ben can't have it, or like you really do want it, but you're just
it's
saying,
all collaborative, like, baby. It's all collaborative.
The games have started already. Here we are.
Okay, so we will have 34 movies to choose from. We're going to choose the top 13. I'm going to say what the movies are that we have available on the list real quick, just in case. Spielberg has a very big filmography, so I don't expect listeners to be able to pull up all of those right now, and then we're going to spin, and then we're going to kick this draft off. So here are the movies that we have available to us for this collaborative draft. We've got Duel, The Sugarland Express, Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 1941, Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, The Color Purple, Empire of the Sun, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Always, Hook, Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, The Lost World, Jurassic Park, Amistad, Saving Private Ryan, AI Artificial Intelligence, Minority Report, Catch Me If You Can, The Terminal, War of the Worlds, Munich, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Yeah.
Good movie, huh, Ben?
Shout out.
The Adventures of Tintin, War Horse, Lincoln, Bridge of Spies, The BFG, The Post, Ready Player One, West Side Story, and The Fabelmans. That is everything that is available to be played. Let's spin.
Let's make it happen. Here we go.
Wow.
Okay, you ready?
Oh,
First
I'm not
spin.
ready at all.
Names are in alphabetically. We'll see how this ends up.
And whoever gets chosen gets to pick what draft they want. Is that correct?
Draft spot. Yeah, it doesn't mean you have to be A. It just means you get to pick which of these you want to be first. Ethan has rigged this, even though I'm doing it. I'm sure of it.
Wow, incredible. Look at me.
Stuff. Oh, please stop. Okay.
Wow, that's really suspicious, Ben.
Yes.
I'm not going to lie.
Guys, thank you for coming on as our guest. We'll be picking first.
Ethan and then Ben, and out of Bryan and Bethanne, we'll see.
Oh, it's going to be close.
It's going to be close. Wow, it looks like Bethanne takes that one. Bryan, you were going to be stuck with whatever does not get chosen. Okay, so I get to choose first, right?
Yep.
I've never been in this position. Wait, actually, I think I was last time, and I was very clear on what I wanted. But also, this is our first 4 persons, so this is a new dynamic, and I don't, again, like I a lot of pressure. I don't really know what to go with here.
Do you want the most picks?
Right. Do I want the most picks? Do I want the veto override?
Do you want 2 vetoes?
Could do 2 veto, but here's the thing about Spielberg. There are, Bryan, you mentioned, there is one movie that you really want at number 1. I think that number 1 spot is not as up for debate as it might be with other filmmakers. I think there are a few things that could go in there, which could get very interesting if you do possess that number 1 pick. That feels like a lot of power, especially someone like Ben. You just toss out Crystal Skull and then things go crazy. I don't know. Anything could happen. I'm just vamping and trying to figure out exactly what.
I mean, everything went great with our Scorsese draft. People weren't mad about that at all. The fact that Raging Bull wasn't on there, they were like totally cool and chill.
No, not at all. Not at all. 12, 8. Okay, I'm going to pick, I want to be drafter C. I want 3, 7, 11, and the veto override. That is what I'm going to lock in at. I feel good about that. I feel pretty good.
I love chaos, man. Let's do it. Drafter D. I want to kick
Jesus.
this off.
I was the only person that could have stopped you, and I can't. I cannot bring myself to stop the chaos.
You could have.
I could have, Ben, but do I want to?
I don't
There's
know.
a difference,
I think you like the chaos a little bit.
I do. Okay, Bethanne, you now get to choose between drafter A and drafter B. So you either get picks 1, 5, and 9 and 2 vetoes, or picks 2, 6, and 10 and 1 veto.
Like, I don't feel like I'm qualified to choose drafter A solely because.
Why is that?
Because I don't want the pressure of choosing number 1.
Right? Yeah.
Well,
literally, I don't want that.
Whenever I put out the graphic to this, I will say Bethanne chose the number 1 spot. If you are not happy, here is her handle.
Here's her
Here's her phone number. Here's her email. Here's where she lives. Oh my God. I'm gonna have to do B because I really don't want the pressure of choosing. I'm tracking.
This is fascinating to me.
Brian, it's all you.
Well, thank you for leaving all of it on me. Thanks.
It's all up to you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.
Right.
Wow. Okay, excellent. So Ben, that means you're gonna kick this draft off with 13 and 12.
Hell yeah.
And let's see what happens. Let's do the thing.
Crystal Skull. I'm just kidding. For 13, I want to go with
I don't know what's real anymore.
I know. Here's the thing is I think all of my selections, I'm going to have them graded as an A because this guy just has so many great movies. I don't even want to dip into my tier B right now. I just want to make sure my tier A's make it. And the first one I'm going to go with is one that I don't know that a ton of people have seen. And maybe I'm just like speaking about myself in the sense because I literally watched this for this draft for a first time and it just shot up my Spielberg rankings. I was like, my God, this is a fucking fantastic movie. I love it so much. I am worried if I try to play it later that it would get vetoed. So I'm hoping, we're starting soft here. We're just going to all be friends and no one's going to throw out a veto immediately. But I'm going to go with our man, Eric Bana, and I'm going to go with Munich. I love that movie. Have any of you guys seen it? Have you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
No, I have not.
Okay. That's fair. That's, I mean, maybe then with you guys haven't seen it, it would have survived a little bit higher. I just didn't want to take that risk. And I don't even know that it's going to survive here. There's still time, but I love the tension that we get in the first kill. There's a scene where someone's going to pick up a bullet shell out of some spilled milk and all of a sudden some blood comes pouring into it just right as he picks it up. And I was like, fuck, man, it's so
that sounds
good.
Cool.
I think having watched, I don't know how many movies for this draft, not Indiana Jones, but having watched a bunch of other movies, I think this is some of his best camera work. Like the stuff he does with the camera, we get a lot of long takes here, but not like still shots. Like we're moving the camera around, but we're doing long takes, focal lengths changing, all that kind of stuff. So it's fantastic. Eric Bana was awesome. I know they talk about that movie in Funny People. Seth Rogen, he talks about like a lot of us got laid thanks to Eric Bana in that movie for sure. So we got to shout out that as well. But and then the way it ends with this slow decline into paranoia is just so well done because we get callbacks to everything that's happened throughout the movie. I don't want to like spoil it for people who haven't seen it, but I think it's fantastic. I'm bummed I haven't seen it earlier. I'm so glad that I watched it for this though, because I own a copy and it's in storage somewhere and I couldn't find it. So I literally rented it because I was like, I feel like I'm going to like this movie. So I rented this movie to watch.
That's a risk.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to do it. And I couldn't be happier. So I want to kick this off with Munich. Pass it off to you guys for your thoughts on the movie and whether or not you think it should stay, but that's what I'm kicking off with.
That's fair. Look, coming from a guy who's never seen the movie, I mean, as you know, it feels a little unethical to play a veto on a movie. That's a gamble. That's a risk. You know, like maybe I actually do. Maybe Munich would be my number 13. I just don't know. I could only get to so many movies, and I thought it did a pretty good job. Munich wasn't one of them. So I don't know. I kind of removed myself from the situation, and once again, I don't have the guts to play a veto on the very first round of the game. But both of you have seen Munich. What do you think of this 13 pick?
No, I think it's actually the perfect place for it. I mean, I could see it in that 10 and sorry,
Yeah.
10 through 13. I think if it's anywhere within there, because it is,
Okay.
it's a really good Spielberg film. It's a sleeper kind of film in the sense of no one really knows too much about it. It didn't make the biggest impact that it could in the sense of like history timeline.
Mhm.
There's the Jaws and then there's Munich, and I like those films that like are kind of like hidden gems
Yeah.
in his filmography. So no, I think it's a solid pick.
Yeah, I agree. I think that when you look at Spielberg rankings, a lot of people tend to put Munich in the 10 to 15 range. It is one of his more underrated films, which is really unfortunate because honestly, it's in contention for some of the best filmmaking that he's ever done. It's thrilling, it's slow, it's intense, so many emotions throughout that film. And it's kind of sad that it is underrated because it was a huge awards player, got a lot of Oscar nominations. And you would think with that, it would be a lot more popular. And obviously, with the gruesome subject, it's definitely not one that's as rewatchable as some of his other films. But it's definitely one that shouldn't be ignored because it really is an impressive outing from Spielberg.
Nice.
Yeah, can't argue. I didn't know it had Daniel Craig in it. That was some new information.
Yeah. Young Daniel Craig.
Nominated for 5 Oscars: Best Picture, Best Director, Adapted Screenplay, Film Editing, and Original Score. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That's wow.
It's not
That's
too
good
bad.
stuff.
There's some great shots of Daniel Craig holding a gun in here. Then it's like, I think they saw this. They're like, this guy could be Bond, I think.
This is the guy.
There's some really good shots in there for sure.
Wow, respect. Okay. Munich is going in at number 13 on the Steven Spielberg ranking. I feel queasy that it starts with something I haven't seen. I don't think that bodes well. That's like a curse situation. I just don't like it. It's not good. Okay, Ben, back to you for number 12.
12. Okay. So again, like this is coming from a list of all A's for me. I love this movie. It's more about, I just want to make sure it gets on there. Spielberg has done a lot of sci-fi in his time, and a lot of them are fantastic. And this one is one of my favorites. I'm happy to revisit it. It is like,
you should play E.T. at 12.
Is this the one I should do?
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
All right, let's do it. Let's play it at 12. Kind of lesser stuff, but it's fine.
It's okay.
But I love this sci-fi kind of telling the future, and I think it's one of the best performances that we've seen out of Mr. Tom Cruise. So I'm gonna go with Minority Report for number 12.
Veto. Fucking vetoed.
Veto?
Wrong.
Well, wait. Are you vetoing to move it up, or are you vetoing to get rid of it?
I can't tell you.
Well,
it's vetoed.
That's the thing, though. You have to let me talk about it if we're going to bump it up. But if we're going to move it up, then I can talk about it.
No, conversation is done.
Veto.
No,
Conversation
I will
over.
never talk about. No, I would. Yeah, no. Let's see. Well, Bethanne and Bryan, what do you guys have to say about Minority Report before we go any further on the game here?
I actually don't know. I don't think I've ever watched Minority Report.
Okay.
I thought you were going Close Encounters of a Third Kind, which I was going to agree with you on.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll save that for later.
Fair.
So I have no commentary because this is one of the very few Spielberg I haven't seen.
Okay.
This is really tough because I don't know if I want to use one of my vetoes super early in the draft.
Yeah.
Boy, Brian, you have 2 of them.
I know, but we're at number 12, and God forbid someone says something at number 10, and I'm like, no, veto that, and then I have no more to choose from.
Fair.
You know what?
But this is a collaborative exercise. We're all helping each other.
That
here.
is true, but since Minority Report is like one of his best, veto.
So
all right.
Wait, hold
so
on. Veto,
that's a win for me because I enticed Brian to use his veto, so I don't have to use my only veto. And Minority Report gets moved up. It's a win. We
absolutely
did it.
Not.
Collaborative.
Absolutely not, Brian. You still have 2 vetoes. Ethan, you have lost your veto.
Where is that written in the rules?
You said veto. That's the only reason we stopped talking. I didn't even get to give my pitch.
I didn't say I'm going to play my veto. I just said veto. I just said a word.
Not. Absolutely
it's like playing
not.
Uno and not actually having an Uno.
No, absolutely not. If this is getting vetoed, it's Ethan's veto.
Okay. I'll let you have it. In good faith, I can't keep with the bit. So okay.
All right.
I will use my veto on Minority Report, and I will say yeah, it's coming back. Let's just say
I didn't even get to give my pitch on it. That's how quickly you vetoed me. I said I didn't even finish the word report, and you started to veto.
That's insane. Number 12.
Yeah,
that's insane.
That's absurd.
I don't know how you guys feel about it. You know what I mean? This is why it's a collaborative draft here. We're trying to figure out what everyone likes.
Well, here, I'll give you a chance. I'll give you a chance to argue for number 12 when it's played at some point in the future.
Okay.
Could be 7, could be 3. Who knows? Anything's possible here
Who
in this
knows?
draft.
We will see.
But you have to pick a new number 12, sir.
Okay. All right. Again, these are all A's. These all are top 10s for me, but I'm just playing stuff to make sure it gets on here. This is, I think, one of his best period piece movies. I think we get 2 fantastic performances here. It is so much fun. And again, this is like probably a top 10 for me, but I'm throwing out Catch Me If You Can at number 12. I need to make sure it's on here. We get top tier Hanks, top tier DiCaprio. It's so good. John Williams' score in this is beautiful. It's a perfect score. I think it's one of the best that he's done with Spielberg, which is saying something because those guys have worked together so much. The line of like, what's he going to be, a shoe salesman at a centipede farm? Like, come on, you're getting like pure gold from Christopher Walken. I don't know. There's some scenes that are just like ingrained in my brain, like all the planes that are in the bathtub as he's soaking them to get the stickers off of there.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Walken's great. Just the airport scene where he hires all the flight attendants to walk with him. I don't know. I love this movie. I think it's so much fun. Again, this is like a top 10 for me, but I just wanted to make the list. So I'm playing it at 12. I feel like I may have given Brian an aneurysm. But,
if listeners are not watching the video version of this, I highly encourage you to go back and watch Brian's reaction because he has not stopped shaking his head or heavily breathing for the last 90 seconds. Brian, what's going on, dude? Well, how are we?
We're not okay.
We're not okay.
We're not okay.
I promise.
Number 12.
We bumping
Ben,
it up.
I support your decision, Ben. Number 12 is great.
I mean, you do have 2 vetoes, Brian. You did it last time. I have faith in you if you want. I agree with you. I think this should be vetoed and moved higher, but I just wanted to make sure it was on here. But follow your heart.
It should be moved up higher.
You have the
but
power.
What if I veto override you, Brian? What if I just get you to burn a veto?
And
then just like, number
Brian,
12.
I
Devil's
agree
advocate
with
over
you.
there.
But I only have one veto, so take it for us.
It sounds like everyone wants it higher,
Brian.
but
how about I just don't want it on the list? How about that?
Oh my God, are you
What
trying
is
to make me
wrong
die
with
on the
you?
podcast?
What is wrong
I'm
with
just
you?
asking. I'm just asking. I'm gonna be quite honest with you. My ranking that I have goes out to 20 movies, and Catch Me If You Can is not in the top 13.
that's insane.
Oh my God.
Is it though?
What?
Yes, it is.
Ethan!
It's insane.
That's why.
Jesus.
I love it.
Jaws also not in the top 13.
Oh my
Just kidding.
God.
No, I would quit the pod if that was
Good
true.
God. The man woke up and said chaos.
Yeah.
He took
Been a
it
long
to
time cooking.
He took
Hey,
it to
Brian,
a 10.
What are we doing? Are we gonna veto?
Don't be afraid of
you
his
gonna
override.
veto?
He's bluffing. He's
You
not
think
going
I'm
to do
just
it.
gonna flex that override? When will I get to use that again though? That's the question.
I don't know.
I gotta feel really strongly about something to use an override. I feel like
Okay.
that's
What
That's
if
a
I
lot.
play Indiana
Can I-
Jones?
can I
and
have
Okay,
a
haven't seen
sidebar
it
with
12?
Brian?
I
That's
can't
fair.
use both vetoes super early in the episode. So, unfortunately,
You-
no veto this time.
Okay, you still have
You
2
still- you
vetoes
still have
left.
2.
You didn't use your one last time, but if you want to
Oh,
hold on.
Oh, I didn't use it? Oh my
No,
God.
yeah, we used Ethan's, so you still have
Oh, okay.
2. So if you want to use it, if that changes anything for you, that's
Oh,
fine.
okay. Then yes, use one, please. One veto
Okay.
for this, please.
All right.
I have to follow my heart. I have to
Incredible.
follow my heart.
wow.
Dare
Ben
you.
striking out on 12.
I mean, I love it. But it's also just chaos because now it's like I'm only going to play movies that I think are better than these. I'm not going to go down. I'm
That's
only gonna
fair.
get better.
Yeah.
Um.
Wow.
All right. I hope we'll be talking about that later because I want to hear
So in
Bethan's thoughts
theory,
and stuff on that.
that means that 1 through 11, one of those spots is claimed for Catch Me If You Can. So
And
we really
Minority
only have
Report. I mean, you got 2 vetoes for
right
2 movies.
in
so
Minority
yeah.
Report. So we really only have 9 open after number 12. We really only have 9 open spots, not 11.
Yeah.
Something to consider. Something to consider. Keep it in your back pocket. Think about it.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And I will say the courtesy of the game is if you veto something, you play it. So later on, but we'll see how that rolls out. Okay.
Courtesy of the
Just
game.
a courtesy.
Yeah, it is a courtesy of the game. Okay. This is like honestly a top 3 for me, but I'm playing it here because I need it to get played. I don't know what else to play here. Like, this
you don't think it'll get played top 3 by somebody else?
No, I don't. I don't know what like childhood we all grew up with, and I love this movie so much. It's like maybe not like technically the best movie ever, but I cannot separate my nostalgia from this, and I want to keep that in mind while playing this. So I don't know. I'm genuinely not trying to get vetoes at everyone. I just want to play shit that I want on this list. So I'm going with one of my favorite movies of all time. The one that Spielberg doesn't love that he did, but that I think is a masterpiece, and that's Hook. I'm going to play it here at 12.
Okay.
Robin Williams, just like so important. You know, he was one of those like celebrity deaths that like hit me a lot harder than I anticipated. It's like, oh shit, like I actually have like a very tight connection with him that I didn't anticipate. And I know Hook is a huge part of that. Like I think he's great in this movie. I think it's obviously super funny. The set design, the production on this movie is fantastic. There was a lot of like behind the scenes drama with like Julia Roberts and a lot of shit going on. And Spielberg just doesn't feel like he got to make the movie that he was like wanted to make because he just couldn't do it. But I still think it's great. I grew up with it. We get fucking Phil Collins and Glenn Close in this. We have George Lucas and Carrie Fisher making cameos in here. Like it's a cameo central. Bob Hoskin as Smee is awesome. He's like maybe the best role in this movie, in my opinion. Like he's perfection. And honestly, it surprised me again watching it now how much it hit me that first time the imaginary food hits Rufio in the face. I'm like, oh shit, like he's fucking finally doing it. He believes, you know, it's like we did it, you guys. We did it, Joe. So yeah, I'm playing Hook at 12 because I know it may not technically be one of his best movies ever. It's one of my absolute favorites. So that's what I'm going with.
Okay.
Have you seen Hook, Ethan?
Have you seen Indiana Jones, Ben?
You can't answer my question with the question. I've declared that I've not seen Indiana Jones.
Listen, you didn't watch Indiana Jones. You didn't watch any of the original Indiana Jones movies. I knew at some point in time Hook would make this list, and I'm genuinely surprised that you did play it at 12. I know that you're in quite a pickle here, but I did not watch Hook for the explicit reason where I was like, oh, probably a top 3 for Ben. I know that's going in. I don't really got to fight for that.
Fair enough.
So, you know, it just didn't make the list. It seems, coming from someone who hasn't seen the movie, it seems long. It's like 2 hours and 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
And I clicked on the page and I was like, let's watch Hook tonight. Because I thought we were going to be like 121 minutes. Yeah. And it ended up being like not that. And I was like, whoa, I can't commit. That's a big commitment.
Well, whenever you do watch
it, I
want to hear your thoughts because I'm curious as someone who didn't grow up watching it, what your thoughts are on the movie. But I know my nostalgia is playing into this, but I am who I am.
Is that a Popeye thing?
Yep.
Brian, Bethanne, any thoughts, any issues with Hook at number 12?
No issues.
Wow.
Ben,
it only took it 3 times around the sun to figure it out.
3 times the charm. We did it. We did it.
Okay. All right. We did it. Okay. So Hook is going at number 12. Ben, you started this pod with Munich and Hook. After 2 vetoes, let's just say that's never happened before. That's a new one. So we obviously feel pretty strongly about Steven Spielberg. That brings me to 11. Can I pose this question real quick as a quick sidebar? So I know we've been skirting around the issue of Indiana Jones. There are 4 Indiana Jones films that Steven Spielberg has made. What's like the consensus on how many are okay to have on here? How many do we need to have on here to be an okay list for Spielberg? Or like, you know, are we picking and choosing, or are we just gonna kind of admit that all of them should be on here? Maybe not Crystal Skull, but whatever. Your own taste, I guess.
So here's my thing. Out of all the Indiana Jones films, only one is good.
Okay.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
That's a bad take.
Hell yeah. I love it.
I didn't know where that sentence was going, and that was not the place I thought it was headed.
Sucks. The third one is okay. And then the fourth one, I don't really remember, but I know I've watched it.
Don't worry. Ethan, I'm on your side. Don't worry. I'm on your side with this one.
I'm just saying, if you want to put all 4 on there, that would be a remiss. That's all I'm going to say.
4 out of the 13 spots would go to one franchise. Let's just clarify that could be a possibility. Brian, you said
One
you're on my team.
franchise.
You're pro Indiana Jones.
I'm very pro Indiana Jones. I'm absolutely pro Indiana Jones. And
I didn't know there were anti Indiana Jonesers out there.
Honestly,
I'm not anti-Indiana Jones.
Honestly, as soon as Bethanne said, I thought she was gonna be like, Temple of Doom sucks. Last Crusade sucks. I would have left the call if she said the Last Crusade sucks. I would have literally left the call if that happened.
I will take it back. Last Crusade is good. I do like.
That's acceptable. I accept.
But
That's
the first
acceptable.
one is the best one.
I agree. I agree with you there.
The second one sucks.
While we're on the topic, let's just clear the air from my conscience perspective. The Last Crusade is a 5-star masterpiece. That is how I feel.
Okay.
So do what you will with that information. But we're only at number 11, and I'm feeling like there's a lot of Indiana Jones energy going around here. And I don't, we only have so many vetoes, and we only have so many veto overrides. So I don't know what's going to happen.
If you want to take Indiana Jones and make it one cumulative story and put that at number 11, I respect that, Ethan. If you want to waste space and put each of those 4 in separate places,
I wouldn't do
know.
that. I'm not a sicko. I wouldn't take up almost half of the draft in one franchise here. But I am saying I think at least 2 deserve to be on this list. Okay.
We'll see.
So we'll see how that plays out. Number 11, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play a movie that I want to personally put higher, but because of my obligation to Minority Report / potentially some Indiana Jones entries, which I just an unforeseen circumstance that I would even have to go to bat for any of these things. I feel like if I don't play this now, we're not looking too good on it making the list, and I gotta have it on the list. I watched this last night for the first time. I am a sucker for 2 things in movies. Number 1, people writing newspapers. That's pretty cool. Number 2, uncovering the injustices of the American government system. Pretty fucking cool. The Post is going to be my nomination for number 11. Really slick camera work in this movie. I just was completely unprepared for that. We're just like flying around newsrooms and zipping through people's houses and rooms of people uncovering, boxes of government secrets. Essentially a Breaking Bad reunion of sorts. We have Jesse Plemons. We have Bob Odenkirk. The guy who plays Gale gets in like a good one-liner joke at the dinner table. Really good stuff here. I don't think Meryl Streep should have been nominated for an Oscar, but that's okay. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but I think it's a great movie. And I really liked The Post. I really like The Post. How do we all feel about this? Because this is kind of like untrekked territory for me. I haven't really talked about this movie with anybody before.
Oh, The Post is great. Excellent. It's one of, looking at kind of like the last, I don't know, when that came out, 2017, past 5 or 6 years, that's up there for me for Spielberg or just movies in general.
Okay. Good.
Oh,
yeah.
Brian wants to talk. I was going to let him go.
Yeah, the Post is awesome. It's honestly really, really great. And, the whole story behind when they made it, like, he shot that very last minute. He wasn't even supposed to make that film, and then everything happened with the 2016 election, and he's like, we got to make this now. We can't make this 5 years down the road. We have to make this now. He shot it in 2 months from May to July of 2017, and then the movie premiered that November to press and critics and everything. Like, he fast-tracked this movie while Ready Player One was still in post-production.
Yeah.
So
Wow,
that's
crazy.
Major flex for a guy his age to do that. Yeah, and Ben, you brought up that it has newspapers and it's a political thriller, but most importantly, it has Bob Odenkirk. And anytime Bob Odenkirk is in something, it has to be on the list, no matter what.
We win.
With David Cross, too. We get a Mr. Show reunion.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Show reunion. I didn't even think about that.
Like,
Wow.
I'm setting aside your feelings on Meryl Streep getting nominated because I think this is like a top 10 performance from Meryl Streep. I think she's fucking amazing in this movie. I don't think it'd be nearly as good. Like, the cameos are great. Everyone's fun. Poor Sarah Paulson getting underutilized. I could have done
She's
with
in
a
like
lot more
2
of her.
scenes max.
Yeah, which is such a bummer, but it is such like a wide cast. So yeah, I don't know.
Which, by the way, like Tom Hanks, totally out of his league with her. Like, she is
100%.
way above his pay grade.
I mean,
Come on.
It's Meryl. What do you? Who's?
No. I'm saying Sarah Paulson.
Oh,
like
Sarah
his wife.
Paulson. Oh,
yeah,
gotcha.
like they're married.
Yeah,
like Tom Hanks could not have lost.
Yeah, he's punching up
way.
for sure.
Punching up hard.
I do like this though.
It's that Washington Post money.
Yeah. I like this as a prequel to Dick. I think this like just slides right in. So if you ever do a double feature, I think throw on Dick after you watch this. But I like The Post. It was tier B for me, but it's a great movie, so I'm happy with it.
Okay. All right. I feel really good about that. I'm glad. I was just getting a little concerned that might not show up later on the list as things start to narrow here.
You really want to get Tintin on there, don't you?
I feel
you do.
We gotta bring Tintin on. We gotta get Empire of the Sun.
Do love me some Tintin.
Bethanne, welcome to the draft. It is officially your turn. A tough position to be in, number 10, because this is kind of like we're kind of moving into Act 2 of the list here. We're kind of upping the energy and the ante a little bit. We know how things are slotted. What's your number 10 nomination?
So it's
a lot of pressure.
It's between two. And either I can choose the logical route, rational route, or I can choose chaos. There are two wolves inside of me, and I don't know which one it's going to be.
Yeah.
What are your two options? Let's talk through this, because this is a collaborative draft. I'm very curious where we're at.
The first one is Bridge of Spies.
Okay. A movie I did not watch, but I really wanted to.
It's good.
I love Bridge of Spies for the acting alone. I think Mark Rylance stepped into his own. I mean, that's the movie I feel like that really put him on the map.
For sure.
And really showed, from there, he was then in Dunkirk. He was in, the BFG, which,
yeah. Ready Player One.
Dude, yeah. Wow.
The other one I'm considering is Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Do it.
No, that's good. Yeah.
So that's my chaos pick. I almost did E.T. just to get some vetoes used, but I don't feel like being the villain tonight.
I like that.
Wow, okay.
Just tonight. I know. Can you believe it? Becoming benevolent in my old age.
Wow.
Anyway.
Look at you.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought?
But
I feel like Close Encounters just fits the 10 better. But that's also coming from somebody who hasn't seen the other movie, Well,
here's the thing. I think Close Encounters is, it's a perfect example of 70s sci-fi, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's tying in aliens. It's tying in elements of like horror, and almost has this Stanley Kubrick-esque feel to it. Something that Spielberg didn't really do that much. I feel like he doesn't really tap into that. And then you have one of my favorite lines of him building up the mashed potatoes and says, "This means something."
This means something.
I did that every fucking Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I did this every fucking day. You know what? My choice is made. I have to choose on nostalgia like Ben did.
We did it.
That's what it is. Close Encounters of a Third Kind.
I think that's a great pick. This is honestly the one that just barely missed my tier A. This is I love this movie, so I'm happy to see it here. The mashed potato scene is awesome. And the fact that like Weird Al mocked it in UHF is even better. He didn't mock Bridge of Spies, that's for sure, but he did Close Encounters. So I think that needs to be there. But what he does, even just with lighting, that scene where Dreyfuss is sitting there looking at the map and the lights come up behind him. He's like, "Oh, move along," and the car goes by. And then he does it again and the lights go up above him. Like, oh shit, that's crazy.
Yep.
And it's just some fucking lights on a rig, when you think about how the movie's made. But it's so powerful. It's so well done. Dreyfuss is fantastic, showing what it's like to be just like taken over, just to be obsessed with something. He's so good in this. So I'm very happy you picked this. I love this movie.
And can I add a quick note? Because you mentioned UHF. I saw that scene in UHF first.
Yes, hell yeah.
So when I saw Close Encounters with my brother, I was like, "Oh, I know this line."
That's the best way to experience Weird Al, right? Like listen to his song first. And you're like, "Oh, okay, that's what this is from."
That's what it means.
I like it. I think it's a great pick. Brian, what do you feel like? Close Encounters?
Oh, yeah. It's a perfect film to be at the number 10 spot. It is one of the best sci-fi films of all time, in my opinion. And I was partially worried going into this list that nobody was going to even put it on here. So I'm glad that Bethanne put it here at number 10. And, you guys were talking a little bit about some of the shots in this movie. One of my all-time favorite shots is in this film. It's when the little kid opens the door and you see all the UFOs surround the house. Oh my God. Yeah, like truly incredible stuff. Yeah, so I'm glad it's at number 10, because if it weren't in the top 10, I would have been very, very surprised.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I
Good,
like that. Number
Bethanne.
10. Good job, Bethanne. Chaos pick ended up being pretty good. Pretty low key. Pretty safe. Not as chaotic as we anticipated. Brian, number 9. Your first entry into the draft here. What are you nominating?
Okay. So it was between 2 films for me. And I knew that if we were going to be talking about Spielberg, we couldn't not have this on the list because Bethanne had talked about how Bridge of Spies is one of Spielberg's best outings recently. And then, Ethan, you brought up The Post, obviously. But to me, in terms of the last 5 to 6 years, I would say, my favorite outing from him is the film I'm going to pick as number 9. That's West Side Story.
Fuck yeah. Cool.
Interesting.
I'm not super high on the original West Side Story. I'll be the first to admit that. I think for the time, it was very, very impressive. The choreography is next level and everything, but obviously it doesn't hold up as well nowadays due to certain reasons.
A lot of brown face in
a
that
lot of
movie.
brown face, a lot of brown face, and you know, and you know what? The scene, not the greatest in my opinion.
Yeah.
But when Spielberg announced that he was going to do another adaptation of this, everyone's like, "Why do we need another West Side Story? We already have the one from the '60s and everything." And Spielberg directed it. He's never done a musical before, but the musical sequences are so beautifully directed that it feels like they were helmed by someone who had directed musicals for many, many years. And the fact that this was his first is so shocking to me. And it just comes to show how much gravitas and emotion and everything that Spielberg puts into every single one of his films. And, you know, a lot of people call this a remake. It's not a remake of the original. It's just another adaptation of the source material. And I think if you're going to think of the proper West Side Story adaptation to show to people in the coming years, I think this is the true one. And it's so sad that this movie is so close to being the 5-star. The filmmaking is 5-star. Like, there's no qualms with the filmmaking. But unfortunately, the lead of the movie stuck out like a sore thumb. Pushing everything aside with him, like his acting, not the greatest. His singing, it was fine. It was tolerable, I guess. But everything just truly, truly incredible about this movie. And I was worried that this wasn't going to get a lot of awards attention, and I'm glad it did, because it really is some of the best directing that Spielberg has ever done. And at this point, he's been making films for 5 decades, and some of the best work that he's ever put on screen is here in this film.
I agree with you 100%. I recently watched this for the first time. On the other pod, we did a whole series on remakes. And so I chose West Side Story, the original, and this one, because I hadn't seen either of them. Very glad that I chose those, though. Like, there are sequences in the first one that I love, like the high school dance off. I think that's some of the most beautiful cinematography and choreography. Like, I think it looks great, but overall, you're right, it just hasn't aged really well. I had the same thought. That's why I picked this, because I was one of those people. It's like, why is Spielberg remaking a classic movie? Like, I don't understand. Like, we have West Side Story. We don't need to do it again. But after watching what he did, it's like, oh, okay, I get it. Like, he fucking crushed it. This movie is so good. He did a wonderful job. Ansel Elgort aside, everyone else, Mike Weiss, like Rachel Zegler, I forget who won the fucking Oscar.
Ariana
DeBose. Like, she was fantastic. She did the damn thing, you know. I think
Brian Darcy James as the cop, actually really good in this movie.
Oh, yeah. He's awesome.
Yeah. So it's a great movie. And we kind of came to the same conclusion that you did. It's like, if we were showing someone a West Side Story for the first time, we would show them Spielberg's, because I think that's the way to go now.
I gotta come clean. I gotta be honest. I haven't watched this since I saw it in theaters, and I was pretty on West Side Story when I saw it. Obviously, I do think I need to rewatch it. It deserves a second go to see if my feelings have changed. But I would not have included this on the list, personally.
I just want to say I commend you for it's brave to show that you're wrong. So I think that's really, it's really big of you to do that. So great job.
I'm working
Ben
on my
is the one in
bravery
his
little by
villain
little.
Let me tell you.
Just trying to be honest with myself, trying to bring people to the truth, to the light, you know? Look, I'm not trying to take away anything from this movie. I think the fact that it exists and like it did pan out as good as it was is special. I think that's a me problem. I think I just got to watch it again. I think that maybe I wasn't in the right headspace. Like, Mike Feist is fantastic. I love everything he's in. And like, I specifically remember moments of this movie, and even now where I'm like, oh shit, that's really cool. Like they did that. Like the whole rooftop scene where they're like kind of like battling on side to side and all of that is really cool. It's just not on my personal list. But look, I don't have a veto, so I have no say.
It's true.
I'm silenced.
So this is a very complex subject for me solely because I'm a theater snob. So I idolized as middle schooler the 60s version.
Yeah.
Like when I found out Natalie Wood actually wasn't singing her part, a little part of me died. But you know, so when Spielberg announced it, it was like for me, it was so hard for me to go. Well, let me back up. I have watched 30 minutes of this film in a hotel once. And I remember when I was watching it, because Leah was like, you got to go see it. And I'm like, it's really hard for me because that movie is such on a pedestal for me.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I haven't seen it since, you know, thinking about the political side of it and like, oh, we probably shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
But still, with that besides it, you know, I remember watching those first 30 minutes and being like, oh, like this is a good rendition. They put Rita Moreno as the shopkeeper. I love that tie-in. And so I'm actually listening to this conversation. I'm like, you know what? I need to get over that. I need to go watch this.
Oh yeah.
So
Hell yeah.
part of me though, I don't know if I would have put it on the list. But then again, as a theater, hold on, hold your hells and yes. But as a theater person who really respects well done performances and whatnot, I'm happy it's there.
Nice. I love it.
So that's where I stand.
Fair. Can't argue with that. Looks like West Side Story is making the list at number 9. Okay, Ben, we're going into your pick at number 8. Can we reevaluate real fast where we might be? Because during this conversation, I wrote down a list of what I feel like we might all agree kind of needs to make this list. And there are 8 movies, and we have 8 picks left. That puts us in a predicament here, and I left off some pretty heavy hitters. Ben, we're going into your side. How do you feel the pressure is mounting to like get this pick right?
I don't give a shit. I'm just gonna play what I want. But no, I'm with you.
Collaborative. It's in the title, Ben.
Fuck you guys. I'll play what I want. No, I have 7 movies left in my tier A. So I still have like a little wiggle room here. 3 of my tier Bs were played by you guys. The West Side Story, Close Encounters, in the Post. I have those in tier B. So now it's just like I got 7 left in tier A. We got 8 spots. I hope these make it. I don't know. Well, I'll let everyone else speak before I give my pick here at spot number 8.
Yeah. Brian, what do you think?
I agree.
I'm nervous. I'm just gonna put it lightly.
Listen. I've been terrified this entire recording, and the terrifying side hasn't gone away, and it's gonna increase as soon as we continue this episode. But yeah. Do we want to maybe reveal what we think is still in contention, or are we gonna go more draft style and keep that close to the chest?
I'm keeping everything to myself. I'm not sharing anything.
All right. Look, I'm just trying to
playing those cards close.
I'm just trying to see how we can navigate. I'm just trying to see how we can make this happen. Okay, Ben, I really want to know what you're gonna play for number 8, because if it's what I think you might play, I de-stress a little bit. I feel good.
Okay.
If it's not, I get really worried that it's not even going to make the list.
So, all right, like I said, I have 7.
That's my subliminal
left.
messaging to you to play the movie that I think you want to play.
And I just blocked it out completely, but thank you. No, so like I said, I have 7 movies left on my list. We got 8 spots left. I'm going through the 7. There are 2 that I wasn't able to revisit, but that I know are A movies. You know, like I just they have to be there, but I don't want to submit them because I don't know that I could speak on them well enough because I just wasn't able to revisit.
Okay.
So that brings me to my other 5 movies, 3 of which are my top 3 Spielberg movies, so I can't play those. So what I'm left with is what I played at 12, Minority Report and Catch Me If You Can. And
wow.
I think what I'm going to play here, I'm going to go with Catch Me If You Can. It's moved up 4 spots. Hopefully that's enough to not get another veto. If it needs to go up higher, someone insists on that, that's fine. But I think 8 is a great spot for it. I already spoke on it. I think it's Williams, one of his best scores. Walken's great. DiCaprio and Hanks performances, great period piece. Awesome Amy Adams performance there, just like for a little bit, which is kind of fun. So yeah, I want it to be on the list. I'm hoping 4 spots higher is enough, but I'm gonna go with Catch Me If You Can at number 8.
Here's where I'm at with Catch Me If You Can. I watched it for the first time a long time ago, and similar to West Side Story, I had a me problem. And I was just like, is this really as good as everybody said it is? And I think that was the problem. I think like people were so hyped up, like Catch Me If You Can, like it might have been during this like Renaissance week or whatever, you know, where like movies kind of go around the table on Twitter, and people are like, that's all we talk about for that week is like how good this movie of like the early 2000s is. And I feel like I got caught up in that with Catch Me If You Can, and I watched it for the first time and I was like, was it really that good? Like the person that tweeted like this is one of the best like clips ever, like was it really? So I think I played myself a little bit on that, and much like the ones that you don't feel that you could really speak to in this draft, that's where I'm at with Catch Me If You Can. Like it didn't make my list because I did not revisit it, and because I didn't feel confident enough in like, is this a number 12 or is this actually a number 4? Like I just didn't know where I wanted to put it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad he brought it back around. Yeah. Bethanne?
Part of me wants to veto it because I think it deserves higher.
Okay. All right.
But I am concerned that another film is not going to make the list, and I want it to make it. So I'm going to leave it as is because I'm going to let the other film take my spot coming up.
Gotcha.
But for the record, when Ethan's making the graphic, pulling the quote, I want it written, Bethanne Tarpley at Bethanne Tarpley on Twitter said, Catch Me If You Can should be higher on the list.
Yeah.
I will not be doing that. Sorry, the nuances of the recording. You have to listen to the pod to understand. Brian, you okay with this spot? I know last time when I got played at 12, you were in a little bit of a pickle. This is not much higher in terms of like total value, I don't think.
All I really wanted this entire recording was that this film made the top 10.
Okay.
And I'm glad that it's in the top 10. And the reason why that I was like freaking out and everything, partially because it was put at number 12 originally, but then Ethan's like, I don't care for Catch Me If You Can. And I have to be very upfront and just say this right now. This is my favorite film ever made.
Nice.
So hearing someone slander my favorite film, I'm like, no, I won't allow it.
Every week with Ben and Oppenheimer, he's like, I don't get it. Oppenheimer's not that good.
It's
so
fine.
I feel you, Brian. Tables have turned on me.
And you know, I understand why this isn't talked about as much as other Spielberg movies. At the same time, I'm confused why it isn't, because Leo and Tom working together under Spielberg's direction, and Spielberg doing something that he's never done, like a dramedy. This is more comedic than dramatic, but it's so much fun, like you were bringing up before, Ben. It's so entertaining, and Leo's great. The charm is there. Tom Hanks, great fake Boston accent, one of the best on screen. Amy Adams, great little supporting role. And Christopher Walken, honestly, I think he should have won the Oscar. I think it's cool that he got nominated for this. I think it's one of the best performances of his entire career.
Yeah.
And the movie makes me laugh 1 second, and honestly, it makes me cry towards the end without spoiling it for anyone who hasn't seen it. But it's really extraordinary, and I'm just glad that we got to put it in the top 10, because I was afraid that it wouldn't be in the top 10 because number 12 is way too low. Like, it being below the top 10, not allowed. But I'm glad that it made the top 10. I'm really glad.
I love it.
Okay. All right. Catch Me If You Can. No. I'm happy with it. I'm totally happy with it. I do this about every single draft when we get to this stage where I start to realize, like, it's just not going to make the list.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm feeling about certain things. We're at number 7. Can I take it? Feel free to decline. just trying. I'm trying to go about a collaborative way here. Ready Player One. How are we feeling as a group? Ready Player One. All right. Sickos.
I'm
Brian and
pro-
Bethanne shaking your head. No.
I'm pro, but it is not top 13.
I like that
I'm not
movie a
trying to
lot, but
justify.
that's not top 13.
I'm not trying to.
No.
I'm not saying it's number 7. I'm just trying to get a pulse. Just trying to get a check. God.
Are
I
you
guess-
saying it's number 7? So I think you might be kind of saying it's number 7. Like,
That's like
No,
your dad
listen.
when he's like, now how do you feel if me and this girlfriend got married?
Yeah,
That's no
exactly.
idea. I'm just throwing
that's
it
never
out.
going to, just like if.
I just want it to be stated loud into a microphone, into the public atmosphere. I love Ready Player One. I think it's a fantastic film. Do I think it's top 13? Personally, I do. I have it quite a little ridiculously high on my Steven Spielberg rankings.
Okay.
But that's a personal choice, and we can talk about that if and when we talk about that. But if it does not get played, I want it to be known. Ready Player One's a great film, and that's how I feel. Number 7, I'm going with Minority Report. I cannot, in good conscience, play that at number 3. I think there are far superior films. But I will say, Minority Report fucking rips. It's incredible. The entire idea of these like beings that have premonitions, and then the entire abandoned father, classic Steven Spielberg trope, and you get some insane visuals of Tom Cruise hopping between hover cars, going up buildings. Like, there's just some really great stuff in Minority Report, and I think it's one of those movies that you watch and like it comes out in 2002. You watch, and if you're trying to be like, is this the best movie of that Steven Spielberg has made? It's very clear no, and maybe you don't have a lot of fun. But if you go into it and you're like, it's kind of a sick movie, like we're doing some cool shit, then it's a really, really fun movie. I saw a clip going around on Twitter the other day of like a 4-second clip from this movie where Tom Cruise replies to Colin Farrell, which is just kind of ridiculous casting for that character.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's wonderful. He basically tells him like, no, you don't understand. And it's one of the greatest line readings of all time. Minority Report number 7. That's what I'm going with.
You don't understand. You have no jurisdiction. Yeah. It's it's so good. I hope this stays here. What I wanted to say earlier before I was so quickly vetoed was that I love the future technology in this. I love that we get Max von Sydow
showing up. The screen is so cool.
The screen is amazing. The personalized ads are like creepily accurate now, which is kind of crazy. Just them calling them by names as they're walking through the mall or whatever. The overhead tracking shot of the spiders like investigating the building, which we kind of saw recently in John Wick 4, it was so cool to see that done in that way. And the last thing I want to say about it is that fucking kitchen scene when he has the blindfold on and he goes to find food in the fridge. Like, I have such an aversion to, I mean, no one likes that stuff, but like I will gag thinking about it, and watching that scene is just like, it's the hardest part of the movie for me. It's so disgusting, but just so powerful as well. So I'm happy it's here. I'm hoping it's staying.
I think that's one of Tom Cruise's best films, to be honest with you. Brian, Minority Report, pro, are you team MR?
Oh, absolutely. I love Minority Report. It is one of Tom Cruise's best films as well as performances. And yeah, the sci-fi technology here is just so freaking cool, and it's so impressive how some of it is kind of utilized today. And my favorite thing about this film, and it's kind of similar to stuff I was talking about before, the imagery here is some of Spielberg's best. I love the grading here. I love the usage of color here. Very green. Greens are popping throughout the movie, and I think it's really extraordinary. And even though I prefer the other 2002 Spielberg movie over this one, they're both neck and neck. They're like right there. This is very awesome for me. But yeah, number 7. This is a great pick for number 7.
He made those movies in the same year.
Same year.
Let's think about that.
And this isn't
just a second.
And this isn't the only time that he's done that. He's done that multiple times.
Wild. Bethanne?
So like I said, I haven't seen it, so I'm kind of relying on you guys as the experts, and I'm going off of pop culture. And I know it's so highly revered, so it just seems to make sense to have it here.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
I love it.
Okay,
Stick it.
cool.
I'll add it to the list of things I gotta say.
Oh, yeah.
I feel really good about that. Okay, number 7, Minority Report. Number 6, Bethanne, brings us to you. This is high tide for big game-changing decisions.
Because in my head, I think I know what the top 5 are going to be. I think we all know what the top 5
Do
are
we,
gonna
though?
be.
Do we?
I think we do. So I would like to submit this pick. Now, I want the record to show, I think this movie and where Catch Me If You Can, I think they should be swapped.
Okay.
I think Catch Me If You Can should be where I am at on number 6. And I think this one should be number 8. I'm going to place it there. Do with it what you will. The Terminal. I freaking love this film.
What
I
a
see it
fucking
as a
curveball. What are we doing?
Hold on. I'm not done with my speech.
There's only 6 spots left, Bethanne. What are we doing?
You said Close Encounters was chaos, and now you're playing the fucking Terminal at 6? You didn't give us any warning. Are you kidding me?
What's going on?
Okay.
That's amazing.
Let me
Oh.
You had like 25 other movies to pick with, and nearly any movie I would have been less surprised than I am right now, to be honest.
Holy
I'm
shit.
literally dying, man. This is
my
probably the
God.
hardest I've laughed on a podcast. Holy shit. Let me talk through it. I just love this film.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, I just really like this movie. It's pretty good.
I love it.
Get out of here.
He's putting in quarters. He's getting quarters in cheeseburgers. I love that.
Dude, okay, look. I will give it to you that it's kind of cool that he figures out he can return the luggage carts and get a quarter back. And then after that, I was just like, yeah, okay, I got it. We're living in a terminal. What?
He's not just living in a terminal. He's a prisoner of war. He can't go anywhere.
It's a lot deeper than you think it is, Ethan.
I get it. Look, I get it. It's deep. Isn't number 6 deep? I don't know.
I haven't seen it, so I can't speak to it. But I still just love the fact that you were like, hey guys, I don't know. Is Close Encounters a top 10 Spielberg? Let's talk this out. And then with no regard for anybody, you're just like, fuck you guys, the Terminal, number 6, lock it in. It's like,
what happened to talking about our decisions? If we talked, this wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't be in this situation.
Oh my God.
Oh God.
I think we did it.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Ugh.
I need to get
Brian. Okay, let's get Brian's take. Where are we at on the Terminal number 6?
Okay, the Terminal fucking rocks, okay? And any slander towards the Terminal is really, really unfair because this is a great Spielberg movie.
Okay.
Is it his 6th best movie of all time?
You know what? I don't know if I would have put it at number 6, but because I needed to be here, I'm going to be okay with it being at number 6.
Thank you.
Okay. Can we sidebar and talk?
Someone of character understands.
No. Victor Navorsky is a great fucking character. I don't care if Tom Hanks's accent is a little over the top and goofy.
Dude.
It works for the movie, and I love it.
Okay.
He understands.
Let's sidebar here for a second. Ben, you have a veto. And the only reason I come to you is because I don't have one myself.
I know, I regret it now. I regret making you catch yours in. I wish you had one right now.
I know you haven't seen this film, and like if I were in your position, probably not in good conscience, I couldn't do this. But just soak in what is happening around you and the reactions that were distilled from those 2 words, the Terminal, and know in your heart of hearts that there are definitely 6 movies that are better than the Terminal that should be on this list.
I'm aware of that. Here's the thing: is we're up against 2 Terminal fans. You know, it's like we're against the Terminal. I can't. I don't know what I can do here, because here's the thing: if I veto it, Brian's got the next spot, and he just said the words like it had to be here. So I'm worried that he's just going to play it at number 5. You know what? I'm honestly worried Bethanne might play it at number 2 if I veto it, because like she's chosen fucking chaos tonight. And like I can't risk that. Like I don't think it should be here, but I don't want it at 5. I don't want it at 2. I don't think Brian's crazy enough to play it at 1, but I'm worried that there's still 2 spots that it could show up. I'd rather have it at 6 than anywhere higher.
It just wasn't even on my radar. Like, I was just like, we all agree Terminal's not top 13. Cool, we got it. Like,
oh, I'm afraid
I
I'm
guess we
regret
don't.
not vetoing it, but
I
ugh.
promise you guys, I'm not just pulling a bit here. I truly love this film.
I believe you, unfortunately. I believe
This is also one of the funniest things that's ever happened to me on a podcast. I am literally in a state of just laughing, and I can't. I'm trying to like.
Let's think about this. Let's think about this for a brief second, okay? I'm gonna do it. Since we're in the top 6 and now potentially the top 5 with what Bethanne has played, there are certain movies that are on this filmography of Steven Spielberg. Of course, we have Jaws, we have E.T., we have Raiders of the Lost Ark, potentially The Last Crusade, potentially Temple of Doom, if you wanted to put that in there.
Jesus Christ, are you kidding?
We have Jurassic Park, and I feel confident in saying we have The Fabelmans. That needs to be placed somewhere.
Okay.
Wow, the looks for The Fabelmans. Are we having this conversation now?
I can't believe you said The Fabelmans before Saving Private Ryan and Schindler's List. You're like, you know what's really good? The Fabelmans.
Look, well, okay, but look, we're in another Raging Bull situation. We're in a Taxi Driver Raging Bull situation. You can't have it all. What are you going to leave? What are we going to? Let's cross the bridge when we get there.
Fabelmans cannot make this list.
Are you kidding me? The Fabelmans won't make the top 13, but the Terminal will.
I mean, you blew your veto, man. I don't know what to say.
You have one though, Ben. You have the power.
I feel like Brian's gonna play it at 5. I'm not just gonna veto it to bump it up one spot. I see the chaos in both of their eyes. Like, I can't do this. I can't. I'm sorry. The Terminal is gonna live at 6.
Oh,
hell yeah!
This is
it's insane.
Unwarranted behavior.
This was
absolutely unwarranted.
This was the correct move, but I will say, if the council would like to put at 8 and move Catch Me If You Can to 6, I also agree to that.
No, because then it's gonna look like I picked the fucking Terminal, and I refuse to have my name associated with that movie. So you have to answer for your own sins, Bethanne.
Wow. God. Is it too late to remove my Twitter handle?
Okay.
Man.
All right. Okay. The Terminal is number 6. Wow. That just completely deranged behavior. Sicko Succession status. Number 5, Brian. Can I ask you a hypothetical question quickly?
Yes.
If Ben would have vetoed it, which he will not. We have now moved on from that round, so no longer possible. If he would have vetoed it, would you have played it here?
No.
Okay.
Would you have played it anywhere?
Not in the top 5.
God damn it, Ben.
Listen, I don't know. I'm going off of the information I have, okay? I'm just a man.
Brian conned us all. Okay, what's your number 5 pick?
Okay, so number 5, it's really tough because there are so many films, like Ethan was saying, that could be in the top 5 and everything, but I'm going to put Raiders of the Lost Ark at number 5. I mean, it is my favorite Indiana Jones film as well. It really is extraordinary how this was essentially Spielberg's way of making the James Bond, because he had always wanted to do a James Bond movie, and he decided to do it following an archaeologist instead. And who else would you cast instead of Harrison Ford? And it's, you know, you could say what you want about the franchise and where it's gone these last couple of years and everything with Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and obviously the most recent entry that came out earlier this year, but it's one of the most celebrated films of all time. It's one of the most influential films of all time. It's really hard to add something new to the conversation about Raiders of the Lost Ark that hasn't been said already these last 40 plus years. But it is one of Spielberg's best. Some of John Williams' best music is in this film. Some of Harrison Ford's best acting is in this movie. Some of the best fight sequences in a big blockbuster studio IP tentpole are here in this movie. And if you were talking about Spielberg films, I mean, you can't not have at least one Indiana Jones film on this list. And I think that this is the pinnacle, obviously, of the series. It's the first one. It's what launched the entire series. So yeah, I'm going to have Raiders of the Lost Ark at my number 5.
Okay. I remember watching this movie as a kid, as a young child, and getting to that final scene, watching a Nazi's face literally melt off.
Yes.
And I was like, this is sick. It's like, we can do some cool shit in movies. This is pretty cool. And like you mentioned, I mean, this is Spielberg really doing Spielberg. I feel like this is really what he is well known for. Really, what he is like passionate about is making these adventure films that really bridge the gap of horror and thriller and action adventure. I personally like The Last Crusade better than Raiders. I think there's a lot there with Sean Connery that gets lost in Raiders that we don't have, that really kind of highlights that dynamic in that movie. But Raiders at 5 was kind of inevitable, to be honest. I feel like Raiders has to be on the list. Number 5 sounds right. Bethanne, Raiders fan?
That was one I said was good.
Yeah.
Just checking.
We're in a good spot.
Just checking.
That was the correct one to choose. No, no, I mean, going to the Nazi melting, that's such American legacy move right there.
Yeah.
Like, the only thing would have made it better if like an eagle was going by as it was happening, shat on him when he was doing it.
I mean, the arc like lights up to the sky where you're just like, oh,
Right.
this is sick. Like, wait, like, I think that's really the first like tinge of like, shit in the sky, aliens, they're out there. I like it. It's really cool.
No, it's super cool. I think, Raiders is just it's one of those films that I think will always be preserved as that 80s, like what they can do special effects wise.
Yeah.
And pushing the bill. And even though like today we're like, oh, what's the big deal? We can figure out how it's done. It's like, I think about that film and they did things that I think push the envelope forward for special effects. And it just has some of the best lines too.
Mm-hmm.
Like snakes. Why'd it have to be snakes? It's this perfect balance of adventure, wit, action, Nazis.
Harrison Ford being super hot.
That too. I mean, in his prime.
In his prime. Yeah.
In his prime. Even today. I mean, the man.
In his prime.
He went from fox to silver fox. Flawlessly.
Okay, Raiders of 5. Ben, do you have anything to add to the Raiders conversation?
I love the ride.
Cool ride.
That's all I got. Yeah, it's fun.
Respect.
That's all I got.
I don't know.
Is this the one that has a scene where he like pulls out the gun and shoots the guy?
I was just about to bring up that scene.
Right, like Harrison Ford had like the flu in real life, and so he just like, is that right?
Yeah. He only had a select amount of time to shoot, and instead of using his whip, he just pulls out a gun while this guy's flinging around a sword and just shoots him, and then just walks away as if nothing happened. It's iconic.
I do remember that scene. I like that scene.
Sick. Okay, we're in the top 4.
Fuck.
So Raiders cracks the top 5. Ben, you were the first pick of the top 4. We all have one pick left. Goes Ben, myself, Bethanne at number 2, Bryan at number 1. There's a lot still out there. I'm just gonna be honest with you.
In my heart of hearts, there's a clear top 3. So
Same.
I'm wondering, like, do I play something at 4 to try to force everyone's hand to play these in the top 3? Or do I pick one of them just to make sure something's on there, in the top 4?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm going to go that route just because I'm too scared. I've heard you talk about too many different movies that weren't these. So like, fuck, man, I don't know. So I want to make sure it gets picked. So I'm going to go with, again, a top 3 for me, probably number 2, Spielberg all time for me. I'm going to go with Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, from the opening scene where that dude is sideways and just gets like lifted up, it's like, oh fuck, all right, these guys, this is for real. This is happening. Like, this is gotta be the best Goldblum ever. Like, he's fantastic in this movie. Storytelling is amazing. When we get him just like tying his seatbelt because like he doesn't have like the right pieces, it's like, oh cool, this guy can solve problems in a pinch. Like, we're probably gonna see a lot of this in this movie. And he does. Laura Dern, gorgeous and smart and awesome and like so good in this movie. Sam Neill, he's obviously great. The T-Rex is still scary. Like, that's the thing with this movie, is it still works. I don't mean to keep talking about the other pod, but we did a thing where like some of the patrons that we had that live here, we rented out a theater and we watched Jurassic Park in the theater like during the pandemic, and it was just so fucking cool to see it on the big screen again. It's like you can see like some dating a little bit, but for the most part, the CG is still great. And this came out 30 years ago, and it looks so good still. And then that final shot, it's just got to be one of the best ever of the T-Rex roaring with the banner going down. And it's just one of the coolest shots in cinema history. So I personally think this needs to be at like number 1 or 2, but I just want to make sure it's here because of who I'm dealing with. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Jurassic Park.
I feel
number 4.
I feel attacked. I feel like you're calling me out.
I am so happy you picked up on that. Yes,
I'm
Jurassic
on your
Park
team.
at number 4. That's what I'm going with.
I'm not the one who played the terminal at number 6. Let's just be very clear about that, okay?
That is true. That is true.
I brought up the conversation of Ready Player One, and I knew exactly where it belonged, outside the draft.
Yeah.
I just come on. Yeah, Jurassic Park is a stalwart. It's like it's what made Spielberg. It was like Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park, and like Jaws. Those are like the 3 that were like, this is Spielberg. This is what can be accomplished. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a lot to say. Like Jurassic Park just rips. It's like dinosaurs on screen. Like people are next to dinosaurs. That's insane, and it's just really cool.
I love it.
Mm-hmm. Any qualms? Any
veto from you guys?
Any moral qualms?
Nope. This is great at number 4.
Yeah. No, good choice.
Well, both of you still have a veto. I just want to.
What am I
going to
do? Veto an American classic?
Maybe you want it higher. Maybe we put it at number 2. I don't know. You have the number 2 spot.
I do, and I know what's going there.
Okay. Excited.
Oh God.
This is the correct area. If not free.
The yet to be announced terminal sequel, the Terminal 2 stuck in the terminal again.
Stuck in the terminal with you.
Okay, all right. Jurassic Park at number 4. It's a great pick. Yeah, I think I would have personally, I would have had it in a top 3, but I can respect the number 4 pick. I think it's important that it gets in there. Here's where the personal problems come into play. Because Jurassic Park has been played. We have E.T., we have Jaws, we have Schindler's List, we have Saving Private Ryan, we have Ready Player One, we have The Last Crusade, we have The Fabelmans. That's 8 movies. We only have 3 spots left. So
we don't have half of those. You have half of those.
I think, and this is interesting because last month when we did the Scorsese draft, this has been where you and I and Seth, we got extremely collaborative and we said, okay, we're willing to make some concessions if this is what our top 3 can shake out to be.
Yeah.
Hence why Silence came in at number 1, Goodfellas at 3, and Casino at number 2. We kind of all worked together on that front. So we're in this stage again when it comes to these. I feel like there are very key movies that have to be in here, and I think that, God, how deranged would it be if I just played like War of the Worlds number 3?
That would be fucking deranged. This is where you bring in Tintin. Tintin
movie's
number
fucking
3.
sick, by the way. I watched it for the first time the other night, and I was like, "This is cool. This is a cool movie." That entire sequence when they're like in the basement and the aliens are like, looking around trying to solve it. It's pretty good. It's like horror adjacent.
Yeah,
They filmed part of that in my town I grew up next to.
Wow,
really?
Which is cool.
Oh,
that's
nice.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Is your town okay after those aliens? Everything all
so
right?
far, I guess.
It's a great New Jersey film. It's a great New Jersey film.
It's there's some truth to this.
I think if we were to only have one Indiana Jones on this list, I'm okay with it being Raiders at number 5. Again, like I would put The Last Crusade instead of that, but I don't know if it does justice to have 2 Indiana Jones films, especially in the top 5. I feel like that's a little bit much for that franchise. I am going to play. Do I go Schindler's List? Do I go Saving Private Ryan? Do we have a pick here? Why does everybody look so uncomfortable?
Follow your heart.
Where's
What did I say? That's wrong. Bethanne, there's 2 spots left. You tell me where E.T. goes. You tell me.
Listen, I'm putting Schindler's at 2. I'm going to let you in on something.
Okay.
Because I think it has to be there. Not it has to. I have reasonings behind it.
Schindler's.
So it makes sense.
Okay.
I don't mean to override and usurp.
No, this
what
is
you're
great.
doing here.
This is interesting to me. I need to know where we stand so that way we can talk this through and then I can make a totally irrational decision at the end. Brian, I mean, you have the number 1 spot, Brian. Are we talking concessions here? We're all agreed, right, of the number 1 movie?
Yes.
What? Doesn't sound very confident. That does not sound confident.
If it does not rhyme with Dawes, just go ahead and sign out. Go ahead and
what does it rhyme with? Give us a rhyme. Is it Lincoln? That's all I need to know.
It's a good performance.
No.
You're unsure? Okay, wow. Things just got shaken up. Do I need to play it at number 3?
Might not be a horrible idea. I don't know.
I mean, in theory, I play Jaws at number 3. We get Schindler's List at number 2. Brian, are you going to say what we're doing at number 1? Bethanne and I have agreed here. Or are you just going to send this into the depths of hell?
You
I
don't
think
have
I'm
to
going to send you in the
answer
depths of hell.
Hell yeah.
No!
Hell yeah.
No!
Brian, we are on the verge of death threats here. We are on the
I
verge
love it.
of getting
This is how it
anthrax
all
letters.
burns down.
Did you not
This is the
anticipate something
end.
like this happening? Like,
Yeah. I love
You
it.
want me to play Jaws at number 3?
I want you to play
So-
so it's on this list.
Are you telling me that E.T. is number 1? I can't have that. I can't stand for that.
You don't have to say anything, Brian. Embrace the chaos.
If I ask him enough questions, he'll cave. But
No.
for
You're
your
just-
pleasure.
You're
think you
vamping
know
for
me?
yourself.
You think
Yeah.
you know me?
You think you know me?
You think you know me?
Obviously not, because I do not see the Catch Me If You Can in the same light as you. Okay. So, Bethanne, you want to play Schindler's List at number 2?
That's what I'm doing.
I'm okay with that. I can't believe you guys are going to put me in this position. You want me to play Jaws at number 3? That's insane. It's number 1. It's number 1.
Correct. It is number 1.
Okay. All right. I'm going to play Jaws at number 3. I'm going to play Jaws at number 3 for the same reason that Ben played Jurassic Park at number 4. I have to know that it's on the list, and I have to know it's secure.
That's why I played Goodfellas at 3. I needed it as my last pick. I need to make sure it was there.
Right. I need to make sure it's there. So, Brian and Bethanne, both of you have a veto. I have a veto override. If anything's going to get wacky and weird in this top 3, that's like, so be it. Jaws is Jaws. I don't know what else to add to the conversation. It's iconic. It's the ultimate horror movie. You don't see the monster until the end. Like that. It is what it is. And any talk of like weird stuff about the shark or like whatever, like, be quiet, you uncultured swine. Like that's how great movies are made, right?
Yeah.
So like we have to understand the greatness. Jaws is Jaws. It is the pinnacle and the creation and the inception of the summer blockbuster. And without Jaws, I don't think we have the movie industry that we have today. I don't think we have the box office we have today. I don't think we have a lot of those things we have today. And it's crucial and critical and key in every way. So Jaws is number 3.
I love it. That's a great pick. Like I rewatched a lot of stuff for this pod. I took notes as I was watching all of them. The only one I didn't was Jaws because I was just like caught up in it. I'm like, I just want to watch it. I don't even want to write down while I'm watching this. Like the dolly zoom that we get when that kid gets attacked, like again, one of the best shots in cinema history. The scene where they're in the boat sharing their, scar stories and all that kind of stuff is fantastic. Then he goes into that story about, with the bomb and everything. Like it's a perfect movie. There's nothing to improve it. So Jaws is a great pick here. Obviously I think it should be number 1, but we got to play it safe and make sure it's on this list.
Yeah, I mean, the only reason we're doing that is because of Brian. Let's just be honest here. Brian, what do you think of Jaws?
No, I love Jaws. It's incredible, and it would be top 5 for me as well. And it wouldn't be my number 1. I understand why a lot of people do have it as maybe their favorite, as well as maybe the best film of Spielberg's. I totally get it. I totally get it, and it is really incredible. I mean, like Ethan said, what could be said about this movie that hasn't been said? It launched the summer blockbuster. The industry probably wouldn't be what it is today without Jaws. And this film put Spielberg on the map. This is the film that got people to be like, oh, who's this Steven Spielberg guy? I'm going to watch anything that he makes. Without Jaws, who knows what could have happened? And this easily could have ruined Spielberg's career. Easily could have ruined his career. Thankfully, that wasn't the case because even with all the trouble that went on when they made the movie, the product was great. It's one of the greatest films of all time. Everybody loves Jaws. It's hard to come across people that don't at least like Jaws. And that just comes to show,
it. Yeah.
Exactly. It just comes to show how celebrated this film is and how influential it is and how iconic it is and how celebrated it is. It's a really great film. And look, even though it's not my number one, I knew that it couldn't not be in the top 3 because it is top 3 Spielberg.
Right. Bethanne?
Yeah, I echo that sentiment. I mean, personally, it would be number 1 for me because it's just, but I'm satisfied within the top 3 because it's arguably such a quintessential film. I mean, you go through film history, and this is something I was thinking about at the beginning of the episode. Spielberg is one of those filmmakers. We weren't even really talking about directors until Spielberg came along. Before it was all about the actors. We're talking about Marlon Brando's. We're talking about the Rita Hayworths. There's never really been a focus on a director until Spielberg went into the industry. And it's films like Jaws is the reason why, because he changed the game. And I think when you have movies that change the game, depending on what you feel on it, whether you like it or not, you just got to kind of honor it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All the lines. Jaws, number 3. I feel good now that we've all concluded our thoughts. Bethanne brings you to number 2.
Yep.
You could have just totally lied blatantly to my face. Who knows?
Yo, could you imagine if I just pulled Amistad or something like that? I'm not going to do that.
I could imagine. I could.
Sugarland Express. Serio.
Go with Duel, number 2.
No, it is going to be Schindler's List, but I have to start with an apology in my segment because I think it was last week, Ethan posted on his IG the Scorsese list, and he put, and Hugo was drastically lower.
He did not put Hugo. Let's get this correct.
I did.
Ben put Hugo on there.
But I gave Ethan so much shit, and I was like, why is this not in the top 3? And now I fucking get it.
Right.
Like, the anxiety I have experienced post-terminal here.
That's what I told them.
Now
like,
you understand.
I think you guys are going to veto me if I play this higher, but I fucking love Hugo, so I needed to get it on there.
Yeah, Hugo makes the list and Raging Bull doesn't. Love that. That's good. That's good.
Hugo is one of the best.
Only one of them has George Méliès in it.
One of my favorite films ever.
Yeah, only one of them's got Sacha Baron Cohen. I'll give you that.
But going on Schindler's List, and I think number 2 is the perfect spot for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those films, and I think this is a very unique category of film in the sense of, wow, that was such an impactful film. I never want to see it again.
Yeah.
Because it's so heavy, and very few films can crack that ceiling of it being so transparent, it being so brutally honest with history that you feel every single piece, every single minute that goes by. And so Schindler's List, it's a classic for a reason, but it's more than just a classic in my book. I think it's one of those films that you have to see once in your life and experience it.
Yeah.
And, I think you become a better it's one of those ones you almost become a better person. Like, you get it. You get it a little bit more. So that's why I have it at number 2.
I remember him doing all his like interviews and press like in black and white. Like I think they had 2020 or something come over, and he made them like, you have to, if you're gonna do this, you have to like show this in black and white, which is pretty rad to tie in with the movie. What you said was exactly what happened with me. Like, this is one of the 2 A tiers that I didn't rewatch. I didn't make time to get to Saving Private Ryan, but I didn't think I was going to rewatch Schindler's List because it is so impactful. I'm like, I don't know that I'm like mentally up for that. I'm aware that this is like a top 3 film of his, but like, I just don't know. I'm hoping someone else will play it because I just don't have it in me right now to watch this again. It's so powerful. It's just a beautiful movie. Great performances from everybody. I'm glad it's here. I couldn't rewatch it.
Yeah. I've only seen it once.
I watched this movie for the first time a few weeks ago for class. I'm in a World War II film class right now during my last term of my grad program. And so this and Saving Private Ryan were both movies I had to watch back to back. So like 1 week after the next. 2 pretty intense, impressive films. And I remember basically going into this movie being like, okay, it's won 7 Oscars. It's a big deal. People talk about it all the time. I get it. Like I purposefully have not visited it because I'm not ready. And I watched it, and it was like, it's a movie where you get to the end and like that final scene and final performance from Liam Neeson, where he's like, it could have been one more, could have been two more.
Yeah.
I could have saved one more person, is fucking insane. Like, it is just absolutely dynamite filmmaking in every aspect possible. And I think number 2 for Schindler's List is 100% correct. I think it is one of, if not the most powerful movie Spielberg's ever made.
Yeah.
Yeah, I echo everything that all of you have been saying. It really is impactful filmmaking, and it's really brave filmmaking as well. And for someone like Spielberg to tackle this, because this was a very personal film for him to make, there are stories about how he was really depressed when he made this, like really bottom of the barrel depression when he made this movie. And he thankfully had the support of his wife and his family there. And, you know, similar to a lot of the other films that we talked about, another year where Spielberg delivered 2 incredible films and 2 drastically different films.
Yeah.
He made a summer tentpole blockbuster, and then he made the film that ended up winning the Oscar for Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
And they're 2 of the most influential films ever, and they're regarded as 2 of the best films of his entire filmography. Even though this isn't my favorite film that he's done, you could separate the conversation of best and favorite. I think in terms of filmmaking, I think in terms of narrative and story, in my opinion, I think this is the best film that he's ever made. I think the best directing comes from this film. I know that's very subjective, but he goes places here that you hadn't seen Spielberg go to at this point in his career, because a lot of his films were very entertaining and exciting and fun. He had occasionally sprinkled in some of the heavy hidden dramas and everything. But the places he went to here, he did not shy away from the harshness that went on during this time period.
Yeah.
And I commend him for making this film. I commend him for going to places that he went to make this film. And it is the best film that he's ever done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it being at number 2 is perfect, because, you know, when everyone was talking about these other films, I really, not to sound like a broken record, I wasn't sure if this was even going to be here. But then I kept saying to myself, there's no way, because, yes, it's not the most rewatchable film. It's definitely one of the more least watchable films of Spielberg's filmography, but you have to include Schindler's List in your top 5. And the fact that it's our number 2, it's a perfect spot for it.
I feel like that's what Bethanne was saying about The Terminal. She's like, I don't think it's gonna make the list. I don't know. I'm getting really worried, but it's got to be on there. It has to be. I remember reading for class that Spielberg would call Robin Williams like after shooting for the day and like ask him to make him laugh, which is like really intense.
And he would
stuff.
put on episodes of Seinfeld to help him feel better too. Seinfeld played a pivotal part in this as well.
Stevie and I, Seinfeld heads. Look at that. Who would have thought? Okay, Brian, number 1, the pick comes down to you. I can only imagine there's really only one movie here that I feel like is going to slot into here. But again, I've been wrong before. Anything's possible, and Ready Player One's still on the board. I'm just going to say that.
So, number 1. Obviously, like I said,
that's killing me.
The build, it's killing me as well, because the entire time building up to this, I'm like, what the fuck do I pick for my number 1? Like, really, what do you pick as number 1? Yeah. Obviously, like Ethan and Ben and Bethanne, like everyone was saying, there's always going to be one film that everyone thinks is going to be in the list that doesn't make the list. And I know that we may all get shit for that. It happens. So
I don't like the direction this is going.
I love it.
I do not.
Number 1, I'm gonna put E.T. as number 1.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
I'm gonna put E.T. as number 1. Pour one out for Saving Private Ryan. Seriously, pour one out for Saving Private Ryan.
Fair.
Ethan, your Letterboxd review, by the way, of Saving Private Ryan is one of my favorite reviews I think I've ever seen. I traverse the battlefields of war to save Matt Damon.
I would. That way he can make Oppenheimer later on. It's all about future and encouragement here.
You know, that is true. That is very true. But no, E.T., I mean, again, like it's E.T. What can you say about E.T. that has been said already? It's one of the most dazzling sci-fi films ever made. It's also a very tender coming-of-age film. And it's also a film about discovery and finding yourself and finding the friend and everything. People just look at this film as a movie where an alien comes down, they're trying to get him home. Yes, that's the premise, but it's also about a broken family and E.T. just coming at the point where the family is probably at the most broken that it had been at that point. E.T., yes, touches the heart of our main character, Elliot, but he also found a way of touching the hearts of everyone. And as someone who watched this movie a lot when he was a kid, it kind of hit home a lot for me. Making friends younger was a very difficult thing. And I remember watching this movie just feeling like I could relate in some capacity to Elliot. I feel like everyone could find a way of relating to him one way or the other.
Yeah.
And the sequences involving the sci-fi elements are amazing. They're great, and I love them very much. But the big takeaway for me with this movie is the coming of age, the family story, and something that hasn't been brought up in this discussion is that Spielberg loves tackling broken families in his films. I mean, we talked about Catch Me If You Can. That deals with a broken family.
Yeah.
And
the Fablemans.
the Fablemans. The Fablemans deals with a broken family. A lot of his films deal with broken families one way or the other. And I think this is my favorite depiction of that in his filmography. But everything about this film is incredible. The score by John Williams, honestly, might be my favorite John Williams Spielberg collaboration. It's hard to say because like Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, Jaws, like there's no wrong answer for this, but the musical score is incredible. Obviously Spielberg's production logo, Amblin, the logo is from this movie.
Yeah.
Of him flying. It's one of the most iconic shots in cinema history. One of the coolest chase sequences in film history is here towards the end of the movie with the bike racing.
Yeah.
The bike chase, that's so sick. And honestly, as moving and tender as this movie is, it's also pretty fucking terrifying. Towards the third act of this movie, when those people come to the house, I mean, it essentially becomes a horror movie. That's essentially what it becomes. It is so scary. You have no idea where it's going. And even as someone who has seen this movie dozens and dozens of times, I still am on the edge of my seat, acting like I don't even know where it's going. Is E.T. gonna make it? Is E.T. not gonna make it? Who knows what's gonna happen? And then it all leads up to one of the best endings ever. And if you don't feel anything during the ending, I'm trying to hold back tears right now because it really is, all jokes aside, it really is one of the most moving endings to any film I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's you could just see the love that Spielberg poured into this, the love that his screenwriter Melissa Matheson poured into this, and the entire cast poured into this. They acted alongside an animatronic alien puppet, and they found a way of getting all this incredible emotion out of their actors as if they were acting with a real person. And that to me is a really impressive thing.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I love the movie so much. It's one of my favorites of all time. And I really love it to pieces. I don't know what else to say that hasn't been said already. There's so many incredible things. And Henry Thomas gives one of the greatest child performances ever put on screen in this film, ever. Like, literally chef's kiss, no notes with that performance. Yeah, E.T., that's the number one.
I think it's a really, like, they don't make them like they used to kind of movie. All right, because I watched it for the first time as an adult a couple nights ago. Because I watched it all the time as a kid, and I was, like, horrified because it gets so scary in the end. And I watched it, and I was just like, damn, something about a movie that's almost 40 years old that's, like, better than nearly anything we're putting out today.
Literally.
In almost every single aspect. E.T.'s number one. Ben, anything to say?
Yeah, this is a great movie, and this is actually kind of a first watch for me. I was getting ready for this pod, was watching E.T. I started it once as a kid, and during the cornfield scene, you know, and like they're chasing each other. And as a kid, obviously I'm scared shitless. I was like 6 or 7. I was freaking out.
Oh, yeah.
But then in real life, 2 houses down, our neighbor's house caught on fire. So in the middle of that scene, we have like all these cops and stuff and like people banging on the door, like, get out. Like, we got to go get her. And it was like some older woman that lived there. So all of a sudden I'm like 7 years old. Like, okay, well, I was movie scared. Now I'm real life scared. Like, what's going on? You know?
Holy crap.
Jesus.
And we didn't finish the movie. And I just had never seen it since then, just because I had this weird association with it. Where it's just like, man, that movie really was like fucking weird.
Yeah.
So it was really good to actually sit down and watch it for the first time. It's like, man, this movie is fucking charming as shit. Like, it is so good. It's E.T. is obviously alien, but he's not necessarily scary. Like, you have compassion for him. Henry Thomas, like you said, Brian, like, this has just got to be up there as one of the best child performances of all time. Like, we've seen his audition clip go around, you know, online every once in a while, and that's also like just as amazing. And then Drew Barrymore is fucking so adorable.
Oh my God.
Like, she's so adorable. So yeah, I have nothing to add to this movie that hasn't been said already, but I was so glad to finally sit down and watch it front to back, and not just like pieces of it that I had seen. It's so good.
Bethanne?
No, I think what Brian said hit it on the head for me. It's films that there's films that that we have in our childhood that speaks to us where we are. And I think films like E.T. do such a great job of reaching out like that. And, you know, as I'm kind of thinking here about our list and all the right choices I made.
Yes.
100%. as
Naturally.
I think through it, you know, it just brings me into awe of Spielberg. Of this man knew how to do it all. He knew how to direct it all.
Yeah.
And E.T. is a great example of this because of showing his range of just a film that's heartwarming and, like Brian was saying, speaks to you where you are. And you can use it as allegories in your head as you grow up. You know, remember this scene and this is how it feels now.
Yeah.
And so, no, I think I think it's a good choice for number 1. I can't fault it at all. I think either or would have been Jaws or E.T. would have been just fine. And yeah, no, that's my
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps up our 13 movie draft with Spielberg. Let's go over them real fast. So number 13, we had Munich, chosen by Ben. Number 12, Hook, also chosen by Ben. Number 11, The Post, a choice from myself. Number 10, Close Encounters of the Third Kind from Bethanne. Number 9, West Side Story from Brian. Number 8, Catch Me If You Can from Ben. Number 7, Minority Report from myself. Number 6, what is that on there? Number 6, The Terminal from Bethanne.
Yay, did it.
Woo, we did it.
I'm
Good
never
job.
being invited back.
Number 5, Raiders of the Lost Ark from Brian. Number 4, Jurassic Park from Ben. Number 3, Jaws from myself. Number 2, Schindler's List from Bethanne. And number 1, E.T. the Extraterrestrial from Brian. That is our list. I quickly want to go around the phone, around the horn, around the circle, and maybe call out 1 or 2 that you feel might have been snubbed, robbed, would have been on your personal list. Bethanne, I'll start with you. Is there anything? I guess I'm starting with the most unhinged possible list because The Terminal was on yours. So what was on your list that you would have loved to see make this list that didn't?
I would have loved to see Bridge of Spies because I really do think that from an acting perspective and what Spielberg could bring out of Mark Rylance was fantastic. I mean, honestly, everything made the list. I feel bad for Saving Private Ryan that we couldn't save it for this list, but
Yeah.
you know, it probably should have gone to number 6, but I've only seen it once, so
Can I ask you a
and it was a very
question?
long time ago.
Yeah. What's the question? Here we
If
go.
I had vetoed you, what would you have played?
I probably would have put Saving Private Ryan in
Fuck.
there,
All right.
even though I've
we
only
could have
seen
had
it
it
once
all.
a
We
long
could have
time
had it
ago.
all.
Could have. You live and learn. Now I know.
God damn it, Ben! I enticed you. I tried to
Like I
bait
said,
you.
Listen, I was saving
I
mine for
should've-
you
I
because I
should've
thought you were going to play
vetoed.
Last Crusade, and I was like, I need to have this locked and loaded because
I
he
thought
can't.
about
He
it.
can't
I thought
override
about it.
himself. So if I veto it, it'll be good.
I
thought
should
about
have
it.
vetoed Catch Me If You Can at 8. I really should have.
Well,
But then the Terminal would have never made it.
And we wouldn't have had
Yeah, that would have been fine.
We
It
wouldn't
would
have
have
shared
been
that
a
moment
list.
that we shared.
Quit slandering on the Terminal.
Brian, what
It's a great film.
and our honorable mentions, anything you wanted to make the list?
Well,
that
I
didn't?
mean, yeah, Saving Private Ryan, it's really depressing that didn't make the list, but I am going to choose War of the Worlds. I think that's
Yes,
one of
my
the
guy.
I think that's one of the coolest films that Spielberg has ever done. It
So
being a
sick.
New Jersey film, I have severe bias because as a guy who's grown up in Jersey and lived in Jersey his whole life, I have to shout out films that were made here in Jersey. That's
Nice.
one of the reasons why I shouted out West Side Story, because that was shot here in
Okay.
Jersey. But no, War of the Worlds is really, really cool. And I don't know if I'm correct on this. I think that might have been the last film that he made that was set in present day. I think everything he's made since is set in the past or the future.
Mm.
I could be wrong, but
No, yeah, it might be his last contemporary movie.
No, that makes sense.
because the
When was
BF,
it?
I don't know.
Indiana
The,
Jones and
the BFG is
When's
that could be
Kingdom of the
argued
Crystal
today.
Skull set?
like the 40s.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. It's a long time ago. Warhorse Lincoln. Yeah, okay, fair. Fableman's is like old. Yeah, okay.
But yeah, War of the
interesting.
Worlds would have been my shout out. That's a great fucking movie.
Ben.
For me, I mean, we just spoke about a great child performance. The other one I wanted to shout out was AI. I think that's a really good movie and obviously an interesting situation there with Kubrick
Yeah.
and sharing that. But one thing I do want to mention that I am proud of us for doing is we picked a movie from all 6 decades that he's been directing: 70s, 80s, 90s,
Wow.
2000s, the 10s, and the 20s. I
Awesome.
think that's
That's
pretty
awesome.
Look
cool.
at us.
I think it's pretty cool. The Post
That's
and West
really
Side
cool.
Story really saved us there at the end. But yeah, I think it's pretty cool that we did that.
Dang, look at us. That's cool. Okay, I just want to read to you what my perfect draft list would have been. It's completely deranged, and I really wanted to save it for the last possible moment so I can avoid any potential slander because we're wrapping it up real quick after this. Number 13, Saving Private Ryan. Number 12, War of the Worlds. Number 11, E.T. Number 10, Raiders. Number 9, AI, Artificial Intelligence. Number 8, The Post. Number 7, Ready Player One. Number 6, Schindler's List. Number 5, Minority Report. Number 4, Jurassic Park. Number 3, The Fablemans. Number 2, Jaws. Number 1, Last Crusade. That's
Wow.
my Spielberg ranking. It is public information available on Letterboxd. Go follow me. Go like the list. Do what you will. But look, I stand by that. I feel good. And if it could have been my way, that's how it would have gone.
E.T. at 11. Jesus Christ. No.
You know,
You have
tough
nothing to
decisions
say.
have to be made. Tough
You
decisions have to be
there's
made.
nothing you can say.
That's all I gotta say.
11.
Tough decisions had to be made. Brian, Bethanne, thanks so much for coming to the pod. Thanks for embracing the true chaos of this episode. Bethanne, if people want to find more of you, where can they find you at?
You can send all death threats to at Zippy.
Oh, excuse me. No. I was in the clear.
That's
I
where
was
I
off
keep my-
list, okay? I was off list. You actually played it in the game. I was in a hypothetical.
Oh my God. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at Bethanne Tarpley. You also can find my podcast, Cinematic Symphony, at Cinematic. I
Yep.
can't remember.
Something.
We'll have it in the
Cinematic
notes.
something.
Cinematic
We'll put it in the
SYM.
notes,
Put it in the
yeah.
notes.
Literally my brain has just blanked out from this whole episode. You also can find She Will Rock You. It is on hiatus, but you can go listen to previous episodes. That's at She Will Rock You podcast.
Awesome. Brian, thanks so much for coming on, man. First round. Appreciate it. Hopefully you'll be back. Where can people find you if they want more of you?
Oh, yeah. You guys can follow me on Twitter and Letterboxd at Brian Suffield, and you can find my podcast, Film Fragments, on any podcasting platform.
Awesome. Cool. I love it. Next week on the pod, I don't know. We'll see. We're
Hope so.
recording this in advance. So next week on the pod will theoretically or technically be the first episode of December. We might start talking about the Oscars because I am really anxious, to be honest with you, and
Yeah.
I can't really wait any longer to talk about the Oscars. We will be doing our standard switch over to 24 minutes of the Oscars come January, so prepare yourselves for that. So we might dive into the conversation a little early. Other than that, I don't know. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
We will see. Go watch The Terminal. That's all I have to say. What did you guys
That's
think
the moral of the
about
story.
our 13 best Spielberg movies? What would your list look like? Would it be as unhinged as Ethan with E.T. at fucking 11? That's insane. Don't
me
forget
a-
to subscribe to us on YouTube. We are on Twitter and Instagram at 24 minutes of A24. Also, if you want to support us, we have a Patreon, 24 Minutes of Not A24, where we talk about not A24 movies. We recently wrapped up, what did we wrap up? Fincher. And now we're talking about Ridley Scott. We're getting ready for Napoleon with House of Gucci and Alien. And then we're going to get ready for Michael Mann to wrap up the year. So, yeah, if you want to listen to us talk about those movies in exactly 24 minutes, you can go support us over there on Patreon.
Heat Pod's about to be, I don't know, 124 minutes.
Yeah, it's going to be long for sure. But yeah, thank you so much for your support. I am Ben Lawhorn.
And I am Ethan Simi. Spring break forever, bitches.